Hi guys, Sadaka here. So I want to do a series on the different plants that I've been discovering in my forest and their uses and stuff like that. This one is specifically about an herb called fireweed. So this, drumroll please, is fireweed tea. I wish the lighting was a little bit better. There we go. See how pretty? It's beautiful and green, and it's fermented. It's not just dried leaves. So I fermented this myself, and the plant that it comes from is called, oh, and it smells great. No caffeine. It has a flowery profile, very flowery and fragrant, not overwhelming at all. It has no tannins in it, and so you can not overbrew it. You can steep it for as long as you freaking want. The plant that it comes from, is like this, and this has obviously been sitting and wilting for quite a while. But you see that it stands basically straight up, and then these leaves come off in this direction, and the leaves are like this. And once this is wilted, which this is fairly wilted, then you remove all the leaves from the stems and you crush them up like this. You can find any number of videos on YouTube and anywhere else. And then that's tea. And this is the same way that, let's say, wild harvested and hand rolled green and black tea are also made. Green and black tea, of course, are made from the Camellia sinensis, which is the Chinese camellia, which is a flower, and they take the leaf and they do various things to it. The Camellia sinensis obviously has caffeine. The darker the tea, the more caffeine it's going to have in it. The lighter, the less. The more natural and the less fermented it is, the less caffeine it's going to have in it, and that is less due to the fact that the caffeine is increased by the fermentation process, and more due to the fact that this is one leaf, and look how big it is. By the time you get to black tea status, this is like a tiny little speck, you know? And so you're using more of the actual leaves that have been really fermented upon themselves, into themselves, and they get smaller and smaller and darker as the plant matter breaks down, and that reveals more flavor profile in more character, and it gets maltier and maltier the darker it gets, and less vegetable, less vegetal. So that's the process by which all teas are made. Camellia sinensis has caffeine in it. Fireweed does not. I made this myself. I cannot get enough of it. The plant grows everywhere on the mountains, in the mountains where I live. It probably grows in your region as well, somewhere, or not too far away. It is a pioneer species, and so that means that when there's a fire, and this is why it's called fireweed, when there's a fire or something else in like a forest space or valley gets like cleared out by nature, or deforestation, that also happens, fireweed will come in and repopulate the ground, and then after taking it over for a couple seasons, it goes away and completely disappears and never comes back again and goes somewhere else. And it's usually like, I mean, it's just the efficiency of Mother Nature. It comes in, it takes over, it basically does the soil or whatever, and then breaks down and makes the soil okay again for foresty trees and things like that later. So, good species. See if I can find one. The flower is bright purple. It's a incredible looking plant. They can get very, very huge and take over big, embankments and things. And then the flower just pops up, and it's this bright purple. It's also called the phoenix flower or phoenix plant or something like that. And so all of my teas are going to be marketed, I guess, towards jade, dragons, phoenixes, that kind of stuff, and all that wonderful other imagery in Chinese mythology and all that kind of stuff, because that's how I roll. Anyway, I wanted to show you that. As a simple plant, you can eat this. It has an amazing nutritional profile. This is one of the only plants that are completely safe and has a certain amount of oil in it that is efficient for you. This could probably be used as a textile. I'm really thinking that, like, if somebody could explore that, they could probably do it. I do not know how to take plants from fiber and turn it into fiber and all of that. That's a little beyond my capacity. I'm sure it could be used to make paper. I would love to see fireweed paper. I'll probably make that myself eventually. Yeah, incredible nutritional profile. It's full of manganese and potassium and potassium, which are two things that are like a little more, that are kind of difficult to get, from a regular diet. So you can even eat this as a green. Obviously, you want to make sure that it's washed if you're doing it wild and all that kind of stuff, and the differences in the leaves when they're young and tender, and when they're really long and big, and they're sort of getting woody and a little weird. Use your best judgment and all of that, but you can eat it in salads and stuff like that, just fresh. You could juice it up into smoothies if you have a bunch of it, and have a really great addition to your diet. So that's fireweed. It grows everywhere out here, and it's amazing. I am making this tea, and eventually I will offer it to people and be like, hey, you want to try my tea, blah, blah, blah. Then that's fantastic. And, I'll probably be selling it in little batches or whatever, but not yet. I want to do it right. I want to do it well. I want to have a nice supply of it and all that kind of stuff. And quite honestly, I have marketed things online before, and I don't care for that. So if it starts just like the Ormus did, it'll start like, hey, can I have some of that? I'll pay you. And then maybe I'll end up selling it on eBay or something. I just don't want the hassle anymore. It's like, ugh. But, yeah, so good stuff. And that's fireweed.